Hey, all you horosexuals out there. In today's episode, we are going to go deep. And as it should go without saying, it takes almost no effort or time to hit that follow or subscribe button. Trust me, I'm not getting rich or famous with a podcast, nor would I want to be. We are all just here sharing our love of horror. Which, speaking of today, I have with me the resident expert on all things horror, even if she has no clue what she's talking about half the time. Hey,
Hey,
Stephanie.
I don't know about expert, Joe. Maybe you would be more so than me, but
No, don't give me that much credit. Listen, everybody's got their strengths and their weaknesses, okay? You know what I'm saying?
yes,
Right,
this is
right.
true.
As I had said earlier, in today's episode, we are going to climb down and discuss The Descent, a 2005 horror film that to this day is still receiving high accolades. The Descent is a British horror film that is written and directed. I don't know if you knew that or not, Stephanie, but
Mm.
written and directed by Neil Marshall. The plot follows six women who enter an uncharted cave system and struggle to survive against the monstrous cannibals inside.
Mm.
What do you think of my synopsis? Is that hot, Stephanie? Do you think that hits all the points?
Yeah, totally hot.
Good, because I took it off of Wikipedia.
Oh,
And I do my research, right? I
yeah.
really dig
Mhm.
deep when I go in. To start this ball rolling, I want to say this movie has sort of like two shifts to it. There's sort of like the beginning of this movie where, we have a lot of like sort of horizontal moments that will lead to this vertical moment. So it's like, we find that, they're all like adventure seekers and they're, doing whitewater rafting. And,
Mhm.
there's sort of this idea that this husband named Paul is doing Juno because Beth is looking over at her and all this stuff. And okay, all right. And then we're like, all right, but it's pretty smooth for the most part. So already we get some character development. And then like boom, like total change of pace, right?
Yep.
Because we
Yep.
get the car wreck, then we hit that second shift where we run into the crawlers and it's like boom, 90 miles an hour, baby, everything's crazy, like it's like shit hits the wall. So um I just wondered, do you ever look at it in that terms of like seeing how it's like kind of like a before and kind of like an like after moment, like it sort of peaks right there and then like totally shifts speed?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's more, this isn't the only movie that does that either. I mean, it lends itself to, watching those first opening scenes reminds me of things like Fall or
Falls a good one, 47 meters down. Right. It starts out
right.
slow and you think, okay, all right, we're waiting
Yeah.
for the shit to hit the fan and then boom, right?
Well, so first of all, because if you're paying attention, old boy Paul, the husband, Sarah's husband, done spent way too much time helping Juno take her little helmet off. You know what
Well,
I'm
that's what I
saying?
was talking about
Like,
earlier, just how like
and there was a moment in the car where Sarah was like trying to love on Paul, and he was kind of like, ugh, and like pulled away from her. And like at that moment, I would have been like, hmm, what's going on?
yeah, but see, Sarah didn't see old boy spend all that time with Juno's hat. It was Beth that saw it.
Yeah, Beth saw it. Beth saw it, and I think Beth got suspicious.
Cause
And
see, cause she's the bestie. She's the good Judy. She's
right.
she's Sarah's good Judy. So she's
Mm-hmm,
gonna keep it
mm-hmm.
100. She's loyal,
But Sarah thought
legit.
Juno was her good Judy, and Juno turned out to not be the good
Mm-mm.
Judy.
No, she
Mm-mm,
sure didn't. She sure didn't.
mm-mm. Nope.
But then we get to introduce these other characters that I kind of am having a hard time somewhat distinguishing because we know that Beth is her best friend. Then
Yes,
Holly ends up coming in as I think Juno's protege, and she's got short hair and she kind of annoys me and confuses me
right.
all at the same time.
Yeah, you
And
said
then
that a
from
lot.
there, what do you have? Because I can't remember all of them.
Okay, so there was Sarah and Juno, those were the two main bitches, and then you had Holly, the protege, Beth, who I kept wanting to yell move at because she was just sitting there, and it's like if you don't move, and then Sam and Rebecca.
Now
Rebecca was
Sam was the
Rebecca
one that.
and Sam were together.
Oh yeah, they were a
Rebecca is the
couple.
one who like tore up her hand on the rope when they were trying to get across that, what is it, a ravine?
Yes, and
Yeah.
Sam is the one that kind of knew stuff about stuff because she was all like ooh, she like started like, they hear by sound and they don't see, and she like,
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
think
what you
Sam was
call
some kind
that.
of medical professional or something like that. Yeah, because she was all, well, judging by what we've seen, um, they're blind, which would explain why those things could look directly at a burning, torch and not notice them standing right in front of them. And then they have what bat like hearing, so like bat sonar, they echolocation, right? They
Bat
make that
sonar.
crazy sound. What do they call them? They call them crawlers. Isn't
Is
that
that,
the
yeah,
like the title for
that's
them?
the name of these cave dwelling creatures. They are
Right.
crawlers. They're not quite human, they're not quite alien, they're just
I think they're
crawlers.
humans that evolved and adapted to their environment because there are still male and female because they had that little bitty one. Well, I don't know if he was a little bitty, but
Oh
maybe.
yeah, Wikipedia also told me that, so I think you're about right.
Go Wikipedia. Um, and then okay, what pissed me off from the very jump was Juno leaving the book behind. Like, first of all, y'all weren't even at the caves that you said you was taking them to. So that's already strike one. And then two, you left the only book that could have even given, well, I guess the book wouldn't have mattered anyways because they weren't in the right caverns.
No, this was all, it was all a ruse. Like, it
She
was
was like,
untrue. My favorite one was when
"Mm,
she's like, I thought we could name it after you. I was like, bitch, you are lying through your girl. Your nose is growing like
back."
Pinocchio. I
Sarah
mean,
was like, this bitch.
I know I'm thinking, because how you lie straight to her face like that? I mean, because we're at a
Right.
close distance at this point, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, girl, you are crazy. But, and, I have to say, on their way there, it irritates you because Juno is like, all, well, I've never been lost in my life. And I'm like, oh, foreshadowing, and it's worse.
Right. Like you fit to be real lost. And then would she say they were like 2 miles in or 2 miles down? Because the who was it? Was it Holly? Because remember, we were like, bitch, slow down. Why are you running so fast? First of all, like, old girl
Right.
just told you to slow down.
Mhm.
And you out here zipping through like caves that you ain't never even been in. What are you doing?
In regards to that, we definitely know that, Juno is definitely a dom on this one, because
Oh yeah,
whenever
she
Holly
is.
came down the hole, she's like, hey, follow my lead. Stay in
Right.
line. Stay behind me.
All
Blah. And I'm like going, oh wow, well we know who the
with
dom
safety.
is. Now we know who the
Follow me.
dom is in this relationship. And so that was kind of
Okay,
weird
right?
because, you would have thought that, which, see, I don't know anything about like straight sex or lesbian sex, but I would assume it's somewhat similar in terms of dominant and submissive in some kind of
I mean,
way.
I don't know.
Or
Sometimes the
maybe
roles are
it's
reversed. I mean, in straight sex, I can speak to straight sex.
no, you
So,
don't need to really, but I'm just saying, as far as like back and forth, right? It's just like she just looked like she was crazy.
12.
So whenever Holly takes off, it's like, hey, like slow your roll,
Right.
right? Because like, and I'm like, and see what happens. Old girl falls down a hole, breaks a leg. That's what you get, right? And earlier then she's like, I hate you, I hate you. I'm
It was a
going, well,
nasty
Mama,
break.
you should have been running,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was a nasty break. Okay. That, oh God, the bone. Then they had to reset it.
We don't need
And
to
then
rehash it. We don't need to
resetting it.
rehash it.
That was the worst. Oh. What about Juno and her 9 years of Krav Maga?
Oh yeah,
Right?
okay. So once we do get to the crawlers and they start attacking them, I mean Juno starts taking them down like they're, I don't know, like they're little toy soldiers. I mean she just like
Right.
boom, 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 and it was like going
You get some action and you get some action and you get some action.
right. So she definitely. I mean, here's the thing: is that she definitely had
She could be
a very
resourceful.
Laura Croft thing going on. She's
Yeah.
shady. She's
Yep.
shady.
A shady Laura Croft.
She's a shady Laura Croft. That's what it is. It's true.
Because
This is true.
I think Laura tries to save the world, and I feel like Juno wouldn't be trying to save the world. I think she'd be trying to save her own ass.
Well, I know we're all over the place, kind of zigzagging, but for me, like, I definitely have to say that the movie plays on sort of a claustrophobic feel.
Oh,
You're stuck,
yeah.
you can't get anywhere. And the first time that becomes really, really prevalent is when Sarah gets stuck in that hole, right?
Yeah.
And Beth goes back and she's like, look at me, look at me. The worst thing that's ever happened to you has already happened. So what are you afraid of, huh? Huh? Breathe, breathe. And
Right.
then they have the great joke about the lemon and the citrus. And so
How do you make a lemon orgasm? Come on, tell me. Say it. How do you make an lemon orgasm? And then she says, By tickling its citrus. Ha 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 ha.
Oh, that's so funny. But see, as those rocks start to fall, it's like, oh, ladies, okay, no more time for dad jokes. We got to get rolling. I'm like, because we
No.
ain't got time for this business.
Mhm.
But as Sarah's in there, I'm actually saying to myself as an audience member, breathe,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Breathe, because even I start feeling tense. That's a sign of a great movie, baby, because
Yeah.
I'm like going,
All that
first of all,
tension.
and when they're all sitting there like, oh, we've got to look around, we've got to find a spot to crawl through, and they find out, I go, could we find a bigger spot to crawl through, or could
Right.
we maybe like go a different direction? Or I would have been like, hey, can I see that book? And then when Juno's like, I don't got the book, I'm like, why don't you have the book? And then shit would have been rolling, and we'd have been climbing right up out that business because
Right.
ain't nobody got time
Right.
for that. Ain't nobody got time for that
No.
little hole.
Mm-mm. Nope. Nobody. It was problematic from the jump. Juno had her own agenda. I was not feeling that. Um, okay, so the claustrophobia, that kills me because listen, out of all the things in the world you will never see Stephanie do,
Is
it's gonna crawl into some tiny ass cave, and I won't go down into water I can't see through.
oh right,
Is up in
that
the
was
air. I'm
another
gonna
deer
be in
breaker.
a plane because I've been in a plane before, but you not getting me. I'm not climbing up no damn. See that, and I've been whitewater rafting. That was kind of fun. I mean, one of the people on our trip broke her hand, but it was fun. Other than that, um, but yes,
Somebody broke their hand, but other than
yeah,
that, it was
it was
fun.
it was my sister. It was my sister. She held on to the oar the way that they tell you to, and her hand got smashed between the oar and the paddle and a rock. So it was glorious. But yeah, so I just can't when she also the problem with that whole scene where Sarah was like stuck inside those rocks. There was two things I hated about it. One, if the bitch had just moved the bag ahead, why are you trying to crawl over the bag? Y'all all
Lit-
sitting here pushing the bag ahead because y'all
right.
can't fit through this little part here with the bag on your back. And yet you somehow start panicking, and instead of shoving the bag forward so Beth could get it, you go right over the motherfucker, and then y'all, oh, it got left behind because now the caves are coming down. That's the second thing. Now everything's crashing down because something about the dirt trickling, you know, down from the ceiling didn't give it away that shit was not sturdy.
Well, that did irritate me because, like I said, I mean, it was sitting there. I'm going, listen, old girl, like, we had to have a moment happen like that because we needed something to get our adrenaline going. And it sure got our adrenaline going because I think that that leads us into the ravine. And at that point, I think we start to explore different colors and they start, which I think is really great in a low budget horror film
Mhm.
where they don't have a lot of money necessarily, which this is a great script, this is a great story. I just think that the colors really lent themselves to making it a little bit more exciting, because we have lots of colors, like natural colors of the cave, we get to see
Mhm.
at times. Then there's times where it's more of like a red lens, and then there's times where it's like a green lens.
Yep.
And, we even get a shift between getting to like look through the video camera
Oh yeah,
versus just a regular green light, those shake things that they're holding on to. I don't know what they're called, but you get what I'm saying.
glow sticks.
Glow sticks, right? And so I love that how the director just used the different colors at different times because that I think made it more interesting than just us
Yeah.
down in a dark cave constantly going from one scene to the other.
So the colors definitely lent to like the mystery and mystique of the cave. I think it certainly helped. So it wasn't just dark all the time, right? Like because some movies you can kind of get away with that darkness factor, like it lends to it. And then some things it's just horrible. Like people were outraged over the final season of Game of Thrones because it was just shot in a much darker tone, and it was hard to see shit. So I don't think I could get through the descent if they didn't bring in those color factors and like the flares. They had the flares going, so that
Oh
gave
yeah,
like that red,
yeah.
and then you had the glow stick, which was like that green, and then And then the moment where they thought that there was sunlight, but it was really just the phosphorus on the cave walls, like creating like this false sunlight, I guess, effect. So that was really cool. I think one of my favorite parts, one of the most beautiful pieces, was when they were in that really big cavern, like where they were able to sit down and eat. I think that's where they first noticed something. I think that might be where they first noticed, like Sarah first noticed that something was in there with them. They had the flares set off, and it was just like humongous. It was really pretty visually, I feel like.
Hmm.
What did you think about the visuals in that big cavern?
I liked it visually in the sense of from a scale perspective, because rather than um, feeling that tight feeling at that moment or like getting into that claustrophobic, it was just sort of like a wide open space. And it was
Hmm.
kind of cool seeing like just kind of how the set looked and kind of getting an idea like we've gone deeper into this cave. So yeah, I was totally down for it. I liked it. Thumbs up.
Yeah, I felt like there was a moment where like you could breathe, like they finally got to a place where they could move around a little bit, because all of that tightness was killing me. And then they made it to that ravine. I don't know about you, Joe, but I'm not crossing that shit. I don't know how Rebecca like extreme suspended herself with like a single hand to kick those lock notch thingies in to the ceiling so she could like link
Right.
a rope across, right? Um and then she notices that there's like already one up there, not the same as theirs, and a much older version. But I would have immediately been like, hey, Juno, I thought you said there has never been anybody down here. It's never been discovered because somebody was here, because what the hell is this? First of all. And then they finally get over it. I couldn't, I couldn't, I couldn't cross that ravine. That they dropped a rock down there and I was like, nope, nope, that's a no for me, dog. Not doing it.
I have mixed feelings about the whole ravine thing because for me, I feel like, well, first of all, I think they did assess the situation regarding that old, I think it's a, I don't know what, I am not a climber or an
Same.
extreme thrill person, but the grappling hook, whatever it was, they addressed pretty quickly once they got across the ravine that someone had been there before. They're like, that means someone's
Hmm.
been here before. What pisses me off is that Juno was all like, oh no, we need all the rope we can get. And so she's got to do her Miss Thing, like Spider Monkey
Hmm.
getting across the ceiling. And I'm just like, Mama, leave it and just take the quick way over there. Then old girl wouldn't have had to get her hands all torn up, and y'all hadn't been
Woo!
crazy. Although I will say she would not have found out about the grappling hook from the early 18th century or whatever it was.
Right, right. She's like, this is like 100 years old. I'm like, is it though?
And you see, I feel like they weren't really very experienced cave dwellers, which maybe
No.
they said they weren't, but or even just like climbers or whatever, because wouldn't you say I'm not going to use that because I didn't secure it myself? I don't
Right.
know.
That's what
Maybe I'm not.
my
I don't know. I would have looked at it and been like, that might not hold, so I'm just going to put this
right.
one I got right here,
That one looks a little rusty.
a little
Also,
shady.
Juno should be thanking her lucky stars for Rebecca, because if I was Rebecca, I would have let the rope go. You're not burning up my.
Oh,
Did you see the gash in her
oh yeah, I
hand?
saw that. Oh, I would have as soon as I started to
Oh,
feel it, I would let go. But see, here's the thing: if they were supporting her, they should have all had enough
that
weight
rope.
on it ready in case she fell. Not we'll all grab the rope if she falls. It should be we're
Hmm.
prepared for if she falls. There's not just one person holding on with their gloves. It's like everybody's like got it reinforced, right? Like ain't
Yeah,
nobody's like, I don't know. You just would think, but
because
I don't
Rebecca was
know.
prepared. Rebecca was prepared, but ugh.
Yeah, it was really tough, I think, because, when they did finally run into either that moment where they got across the ravine or after they run into the crawlers, everybody just scatters and they try to escape and they all go mad crazy, like they lose their minds, and they get split up, which makes perfect sense that everybody would get split up because they didn't have a specific direction of where they were supposed to be going.
Hmm.
So it was really, really amped up. And I think part of the second half where everything is so busy and so heightened, I think the fact that we have some really emotional moments help to balance out the tone. Because we do get things like where, I mean, Juno fucking kills Beth on accident, totally
Oh.
an accident. So it's still an extremely emotional moment.
Hmm.
Or the fact that eventually Sarah runs into Beth. Beth reveals that Juno is the side hoe, and then Sarah's all sad, and then she's like, "Kill me!" And so there's a very emotional moments. I personally think the same goes with when Sam gets like I don't know, her throat ripped out or whatever, and is it I guess
Rebecca.
oh, Rebecca is like, baby, no. And it's like going,
Hmm.
well, old girl's the one that went over there and, like, wasn't listening because Juno's like, come back. Not that I'm on Juno's side or anything, but it's
Mm-mm.
still just one of those things. And I do want to say something. Right now, we're really hating on Juno, but just so we can make it clear, Paul was like in on that too.
Yeah, he
So,
was.
so
He
he was a
was.
snake.
That it takes two to tango, so it's not just Juno's fault by any means. And he was kind of like he had like pulled away from Sarah in the car. I think I said something about that. Like I noticed his like, ooh, and if I was her, I would have been like, okay, see something's going on. I want to speak to so when they're first walking into the cave, and I think this lends to the second half of the movie. Sam was just kind of like naming off all these different things that could go wrong, from them being down in the caves, like hallucinations, the claustrophobia, disorientation. And I feel like that stuff started to kind of kick in, for some of them almost immediately, because I remember when they first got down into the cave, Sarah heard like a child giggling, right? And then there's like moments throughout when she's in the shit of the shit of it all. Okay, so one of the most disturbing parts for me is there's like there she's in this one part of the cave, Sarah is, and there's a bunch of bones everywhere, and I think that's where she finds Beth, and Beth kind of gives her this like indication that hey, Juno and Paul, Sarah's husband, were had something going on, and that Juno was the reason Beth is in this predicament. So Sarah takes care of Beth, and then she starts going. Well, one of those crawler thing pops up. It's a child that attacks her, and then we realize, oh, there's female versions of these because here's a child, and the mom is all like pissed off because
Yeah.
Sarah doesn't hurt the child. And then Sarah goes running, and she falls into what can only be described as a pool of blood and chunks of stuff.
I know.
And
Like teeth and
it's
banana chunks and
it's just so
it looked like
so
vomit that was
nasty.
just red. It was like
Right.
chunks of like someone had eaten like stovetop stuffing for dinner, and this is what you had left. And
It
yeah,
was
it was
just so
nasty.
gross.
Yeah, yeah.
So gross. It's like corn syrup, just super thick. But then she has that moment where she sits there super still because that thing
Right, the water,
pops up.
the blood settles, and
Yep.
that's when she rises kind of up out of the
Oh, but
blood.
not enough to keep her mouth out of the damn
Oh, I
like
know, right?
bitch.
Blowing bubbles in it. Old girl is blowing bubbles in
What?
it. And I'm like,
Like if you could
no,
just have gone
mama.
up above that bottom lip,
Get
that
to
would
the
have been
chin. Make it to the
glorious. Get
chin,
to the
and then
chin
you
and
can
put your head up.
breathe
And then you
out
can
and
breathe.
in.
Like, why are you
Right.
blowing the? Oh, it's so gross. It's so nasty. Like,
Yeah.
ew, all that's in your
Yeah, that
mouth.
was just gnarly. Because then when she's laying on that rock and the crawler comes up in his honor and he's like dripping all over, I'm going, oh Lord. So I mean, yeah, it was some pretty wicked, cool stuff. I mean, I know it was intense, but I liked that part personally. I thought it was
Hmm.
it was a fun ride for me. I thought it was pretty cool.
So the crawlers, not very much exposure to sun because their skin was almost translucent, but then we find out that they do make their way to the surface, so there has to be a way out of there because they've been bringing food down, like animals and stuff.
Yeah, that
So,
was kind of weird for me because something that we pointed out was if they were 2 miles down, as according to one of the characters, then
right.
how were they dragging all that stuff 2 miles down? Like this, like
Right.
it was like a bear or a wolf or something in there at one
Is
point. I was
something.
like going, "How you dragging all this shit down here?" Because it's just something for real, for real.
At one moment, though, I think they just dropped something down. It was like Geronimo, and it almost hit Sarah. I think that's how she realized Beth was like, she saw Holly and Beth, and Beth's all, Juno did this to me.
So if someone came to you and said, "Hey, I want to go and I want to go like cave spelunking," and would you go?
It's a hard no for me, dog.
Yeah,
No.
hard no for me as well. So I wanted to talk about the ending from the theater versus the ending for the
Yeah.
uncut, because we
Hmm.
do see in both versions her running up sort of this hill that is full of bones. And I just
She's
want to
running up
say,
that hill.
yeah, that I was just gonna say I love the score that's being played in the background, but now to
Hmm.
think about it being played with uh, Kate Bush's song "Running Up That Hill" that has been played a gazillion times since Stranger Things.
Sure has.
It
Thank you,
sort of
Stranger Things.
it's sort of, yes, thank you. It was wonderful the first 1,000 times I heard it. And
Didn't Joey used to
now
play it on repeat?
he did, and now it's sort of turned into sort of like Kiss from a Rose for me.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, that was popular
Ooh.
and then became unpopular. This one was unpopular and then became popular, but I sort of had the same feeling about the two songs. But to get back to the ending, she does climb up and then out this hole, right? She's up out this hole.
Yep.
Now in the theater
Yep.
version, she hops in the SUV. She takes off freaking out. She's losing her mind. She pulls over. She retches out the window. She turns and look. There's Juno. Oh my
She
God.
retches because that truck almost hit her.
Right. And then she looks over. There's Juno. And then cut to black. And they rolled credits when you saw it in the movie theaters.
Yep.
Now, thank you to the invention of DVDs and
Whoop, whoop.
the rise of home theater, home theater entertainment. We now know what the director sort of intended for the ending to be, which was where she was sitting there having a hallucination,
Hmm.
doing what we think is looking at Jessica and her birthday cake, but as the camera pulls away, she's looking at the a torch that she's made, and it turns out she never made it out of the cave.
Hmm.
Now, which ending do you pick? Because I'm going to ask you before I tell you mine.
Okay. That is a great question. And I think all of us would ideally root for her to have made it out. Like we want her to make it out.
Yes,
Um,
true.
but I prefer the hallucination ending.
Okay,
Because
good,
she's
because
still down,
that's
she's still alive. There's still a chance.
yes, I love the hallucination ending as well. I love the ending that the director originally had intended. Certainly, you are right. We wanted to make it out. We want hope. We want a sequel. All those great things. But I do love that they had left her down in the cave. With that being said, they did make a part two. And while we're
And
not
that's what I
going
was
to
about to
dive
say.
quite much into this, the way they presented part two was just like the theater ending, was that she had made it out, and then she was found in the hospital, and they said to her, now that you've found this cave, we want to go down and explore, and we want you to come with us.
No, hell to the no.
And she goes with them. And I was like,
No.
hell no. Like, it
Mm-mm.
just would have been something that just wouldn't happen. I'm like, I will take shit that ain't gonna happen for $1,000,
Mm-hmm.
Alex. And
Mm-hmm.
that's her going
Mm-hmm.
back down that cave. So it's the descent again. And it's like,
Again,
no,
right.
no, it's bad enough
Ah.
the first time. And I won't even get into that film because that one's pretty wild. Now, a lot of people poo on
Mm-hmm.
it. They do. They poo on it. And it's kind of ironic I say that. Now, I would watch it again but it wasn't my favorite when I saw it, only because they
Right.
got her to go back down in that cave. And I'm like, even if someone said to me,
Mm-mm.
listen, you're going to have a team of 6 people and there's
Nope.
$1 billion down there. You just have to go get it. I'd be like, no.
Mm-mm.
I'm
Mm-mm.
like, no, I'm not going back down there.
Mm-mm.
If one of y'all can grab that for me while you're down there, super duper, we'll
Yep.
split it.
Great.
We'll
Bring it
split
back.
it.
I'll
I
give
was
you
like,
some. You get a cut.
but I ain't going in that cave. Ain't
Nope.
happening. Don't want it.
Nope.
Don't need it. Don't give it to
Because
me. All right, awesome. Well,
that's
hey,
true.
Stephanie, that's I think about what wraps it up that what we got on the Descent, man, because it's a
Mm-hmm.
fun ride. It's definitely an awesome movie. I mean, it came out quite a long time ago, 20 years ago ish. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a fun ride. It's still a fun ride. And
Yeah.
I think
It's
that
held up
it's,
well.
yeah, it has really held up well. I think that, there's memes to this day that are still uh
Them
prevalent
on the
that
porch. Yeah.
right and things of that nature that are kind of symbolic and have stuck with us. And so yeah, I think it's a really cool movie. And I appreciate having gotten to watch it with you. That was a blast. So
Just for reference, little fun tidbit here. I did the math, and if Juno was right, and they were 2 miles down or into the cave, they were effectively 10,560 feet deep. Yeah, and your girl's not doing it.
mm,
I'm not doing it.
no, yeah, no, I wouldn't do
Mm-mm.
that. But then again, I would have never done it. I would have been like, hey, when we get together, how about we just hang out in our jammies in this cabin and talk all day and like play board games and things like that, and maybe go into town and get some junk food or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Some wine and cheese.
right, that would have been my approach to the weekend. It would not have been, let's climb 10,000 plus feet below ground. So,
Right. Mm-mm.
that's
Mm-mm.
examples of things I don't think are fun. But, um,
Right.
right. So, all right.
Things you'll never catch me doing.
Well, thank you all so much for chiming in and listening to us gab
Thanks,
again
y'all.
about The Descent from 2005. And we will be seeing you again next time.
Bye.